He's going to be talking about the VegFest philosophy and vegan philosophy and how they marry together, I think. So, Tim Barford.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Dr. Yates. Indeed, that's my role to help put together the VegFest UK events. And you may well know now we do 4 events. This one in Brighton has been now in its 8th year. Bristol, we started in 2003. We're now in our 13th year. London Olympia, we're now in our 4th year. And Glasgow VegFest Scotland is now in its 2nd year. We don't actually have any plans to do any more. We are going to be focusing on these 4 events for the next foreseeable future. Part of the reason, as I'll come to later, is because part of the VegFest sort of stroke vegan philosophy is grassroots education. And what we're seeing right now, of course, in the UK is this explosion of vegan UK events done by grassroots activists. And they are, this is one of the big things that's fueling the growth of the vegan philosophy in the UK right now, and indeed all around the world, because the idea is spreading. What I'm going to be talking about really today is 2 areas. One is the VegFest current sort of setup. Where are we in terms of some of the politics that surround animal rights, veganism, and social justice movement that we're involved with? How best to take forward the vegan philosophy. How do we present it? How do we help people to go vegan, stay vegan, live vegan, and then start teaching vegan? It's been a turbulent year, or 18 months for VegFest, and I think also for a number of other vegan activists in the UK. It seems to me now we're almost on this point of I don't know, it feels to me like we've been through the worst, as it were. There's been some turbulent times. My own feeling on a general level is generally that's a good thing. Social justice movements historically succeed when they challenge themselves to do better. Something that springs to mind, I don't know, it just popped in my head about how I remember George Bush got elected as US president in, when was it, 2000? I think, when did he become president? George Bush come out, 2000, 2001. And it was like, what on earth is this guy doing running in America? And one of the things, George Bush had an awful environmental record, amongst other awful records. One of the things I believe happened was that when George Bush got elected, he overnight unified the green environmental movement in the USA. Because suddenly, this movement had got very sort of dissipated in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of falling out. There was a lot of disagreement about the best way to take forward the environmental issues. There was a lot of different campaign groups and individuals, and they got a lot of friction and division and disagreement, and indeed sort of pure hatred even. Suddenly, George Bush turned up. It was like, wow, right, the Green movement was united by a common enemy. And, I see similarities about happening now, is that there's a unity coming about the vegan philosophy, because we need to, really. We're approaching critical mass time, it would appear. So another one I remember too, I'm sure some of you here will remember Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher, who came to prominence in 1979. And again, it's almost like she helped unite a whole underclass that was again quite fractured and sort of divided and disagreeing. A lot of people came together over the common, or what was conceived or perceived as the common threat of Margaret Thatcher. So, social justice movements have a history of sort of uniting. And when things get tough, sometimes that's a good thing. So what's really happened in the last 18 months, especially in the UK, I would say has been a good thing. Because the growth of the vegan movement was, as Roger said earlier, almost didn't exist in the 70s and the 80s. And now it's growing, and now we're getting to a point where it's quite possible that it could even tip into a mainstream lifestyle choice. I actually thought that was already happened in Brighton, but, you know, I can't believe I went out just on Friday to try and find vegan food on the high street, and it's still really hard. In fact, I went into one place and they had vegan sushi and stuff. None of it said it was vegan. They had to get the allergy lists out. They didn't know what was vegan. They didn't even know what the word meant. I had to explain it to them. I'm thinking, wow, this is in Brighton, like 100 metres up the road. What's going on? But still we're at a place where, you know, we're way short of veganism being a mainstream lifestyle choice. But I do think we're coming to a point where we could tip the balance. And therefore, all of this starts becoming more relevant. You know, like 10 years ago, I don't know, it just didn't seem really to matter. If you were doing something vegan, that was good enough. You know, if you were campaigning for animals, that was good enough. You know, as long as it was for the animals, that's all it needed to be. And indeed, as national groups, like, for instance, you know, PETA, People's Ethical Treatment for Animals, they have made a whole campaign out of basically what's a misogynistic, sexist campaign. Nobody's really challenged it. It's just sort of normal to do all that kind of thing. There's been, you know, there's animal groups that exist that reject veganism. You know, they don't want to be vegan. They don't even want to be associated with being vegan because in their eyes it's divisive or it puts people off or whatever. You know, maybe they won't get their donors in. I don't know. It didn't seem to matter, but now it does. And I think the reason is because veganism is becoming now to the fore. This country is fortunate and privileged enough to be, well, I would hesitate to say the word lead the world, but we are lucky enough to be in a country that is going vegan quite dramatically quickly. And we're very, very lucky to be blessed with a lot of very strong vegan and animal rights groups in the UK that anybody who was here yesterday and saw the Effective Factor, witnessed people like, you know, Rob Masters from London Vegan Meetup and, you know, Vegan Geezer, and there was numerous occasions, Dean Brasher, into loads of schools. I mean, there's so much vegan stuff happening in the UK anyway that's almost we don't even see. I mean, all the vegan national groups like your Animal Aids and Vivas and vegan societies, Veganuary, they're doing these 30-day vegan pledges, and, you know, we're getting tens of thousands of people through the door. And I'm not sure that's happening anywhere else in the world. Poland seems to be really big on vegan. Poland's got a really big vegan thing going on. Germany has got quite a big vegan thing. And other parts of the world, you know, Australia and America are, I don't know, it seems to be in England we're really lucky, and therefore I think it's really important that especially the main players in the vegan world, as it were, in the UK, are, you know, consistent, they're self-critical, they're analytical, they're prepared to look at their work, question the effectiveness of it, and really ensure that there is a consistent vegan message coming out. There seems to be a rise in the last few years of this sort of veganish approach, or reducitarian approach, or flexitarian, or, oh, you know, it doesn't matter too much. It's all about you and your journey. And, oh, well, if you choose to exploit a few animals, so what, you know. You don't want to put anyone off. And, oh, you don't want to be seen as too pure. And I mean, some of it I find mind-boggling. I personally think, actually, it's all good. But if you're vegan, no, you should be promoting veganism. If you're the Daily Mail, oh, fantastic if you're doing articles about the benefits of reducing your animal consumption. And if you know, the Daily Telegraph wants to write pieces about how amazing it would be if we all reduced our meat and dairy intake by 80%, and then the environmental problems would be so, you know, different. That would be so more contained. And, you know, people will advocate for reduction in meat and dairy so that the poor people in the developing countries can actually have their land and resources back and farm and grow food for their own people rather than growing cattle fodder or, in some cases, tulips for the consumer market in the West. So these are all great, but to me it's a bit like, you know, Donald Watson talked about ripening people to the vegan thing. People need to be ripened. And I think it's great that the the people who are not vegan are catching on to this and promoting some kind of change. But for me, it's just essential. I think there's a lot of vegans who agree. If you're vegan, you should be promoting veganism, because veganism is the solution. We've got a perfectly good answer here. We've got a set of problems, and we've got a really good answer. And the beauty about the vegan concept and philosophy is it is just so far-reaching. It's so inclusive. It embraces so many problems. And it doesn't need changing, really. It's the solution. We've been given that solution. We've been given that option. And I think, myself, if you're vegan, you know, you should be focusing on promoting veganism creatively, peacefully, non-violently. And, you know, this is an extension of my own vision of how to do it. It's like, let's have activist summits. Let's have competitions between activists to enhance their, you know, creativity. Let's have debates. Let's have discussions. Let's embrace all of this, you know, and try and develop our own effectiveness so that we do become a unified global vegan movement that ultimately is successful. And this is the key issue, is we do not have a plan B. There is no second option. It is a vegan option. And that's the only one that's going to work. It's the only one that's going to stick. And it's the only one I've seen come out of the last 80, 70 years that really stacks up. And that's why I went vegan. Because when I went vegan, for a number of reasons in 1984, but the predominant one was it just sorts out so many issues. You know, if you're bothered about the environment, the vegan option. If you're bothered about your health, the vegan option. If you're bothered about a sustainable food production, the vegan option. If you're a feminist, it's a vegan option. Now, if you're part of a social justice movement, veganism is the solution. And therefore, I think it does us no service to water that down. It doesn't help to try and somehow make veganism a bit easier. You know, veganism is already really easy. It's just you just choose not to exploit animals whenever you can. I mean, that's it. That's all you have to do, is you don't exploit animals. How many people are vegan here? Yeah, okay, most of us. Okay. So, interesting, I picked up on something from Will Tuttle yesterday. Will Tuttle's been visiting, and he mentioned yesterday that his opinion and experience, and he has travelled the world and done conferences with many people, pre-vegans, existing vegans, and relapse vegans, all sorts. And he said, in his opinion, that 98% of change, and it comes from the heart. There's something you feel. There's something you experience. Yeah, sure, you work it all out here, but, you know, I know loads of people who are not vegan, who agree with being vegan. They just, for some reason, they're not. And, you know, I mean, the logic of being vegan is almost unquestionable, but whether people will accept it and act on it, it seems to be that it's something that deep down stirred in your heart, you know, that it's not to do with your logic and your thinking. I think if it was down to just logic and thinking, we would have a vegan world, because I haven't seen any good argument against going vegan yet. Well, not a decent one anyway. So clearly there's, you know, it's not just about logic. So we have to look a bit further, and we have to realize that, you know, we've got a big challenge. And we have to be prepared to work out how we're going to do this job, because if we don't do it, who is? You know, it's going to be the vegans who are going to help people go vegan. It's not going to be the Daily Mail, and I don't trust the governments to act quickly enough for us. I'm not saying that governments don't have the capacity, just saying they're not. They're just not doing it for us. They're not doing what we need to do. In other words, therefore, if the governments aren't doing it, then it's going to have to be the people. And I would say that in this context too, some of these national groups, you know, they are incredibly, I say incredibly, some of them are incredibly successful, some of them are very problematic too. And my own conclusion is that the vegan thing will come from grassroots, and that it won't be a government and it won't be a group. It will be individuals talking on a one-to-one, working on creative vegan activism, and that's how we'll go vegan. So What I'm going to look at out of this, therefore, in this last, 18 months, as I mentioned, there's been some turbulence, particularly, with this introduction into the UK, especially in the last year or so, the concept of the abolitionist approach, which is a very clear approach about exploitation of animals, and quite controversial, as we know, and it has stirred up quite a lot of debate and opinion. And when I think back where I was 18 months ago with VegFest, we were still promoting flexitarian. We even had part-time carnivore. We had a vegetarian society. We had all sorts of people who were promoting the exploitation of animals, although they were all trying to cut down on the promotion of exploitation of animals. Nevertheless, by nature, they were still promoting the idea that it's okay to carry on exploiting animals, just do less of it. And somewhere around about a year ago, VegFest UK rejected that idea, and we changed our criteria, and we really, really worked out the importance of what I've just been saying the last 15 minutes or so about delivering a clear vegan message, and let's leave all that reducitarian stuff to the mainstream media. Because let's face it, they've got bigger, they're already doing it. Let's us lot focus on the vegan thing. So over the last year or so, VegFest has changed quite a lot. I'm going to talk a little bit about that so that people can see from the person who puts the show together and takes the decisions. And I'll be clear here, there's only one decision maker with VegFest UK, and that's me. I'm the one who decides. I've learned to listen. And I've learned to take on board other people's opinions, and I'm extremely lucky to have incredible people to work with, like Dr. Alan Lee, does a huge input for us. All my team, Victoria, who's working with the Great Yorkshire Vegan Festival. These people have been really, really helpful. And we do make our decisions collectively, but ultimately it is me who decides. It's my baby. I'm the one who makes the decisions. We have made a clear decision to not include reducitarian, flexitarian approaches. We've made a clear decision to deliver a clear go vegan, stay vegan, live vegan, teach vegan message, which you can see all around you on the posters. We also made a decision to reject quite a lot of money. We've knocked back £30,000 approximately from would-be sponsors, including one very big firm who wanted to write us a cheque for £10,000 there and then. I'm not going to name them, but they are one of these kind of nice, lots of vegan stuff, but they do all the humane meat and the happy egg stuff, and they kind of make a big deal of it, and they promote it as an acceptable thing, and it's like, well, no, we're not, And I remember the conversation. I said, sorry, you're not ethical enough. And he says, what? We are the most ethical store in the world. We've got awards for it. It's like, yeah, but you're promoting the exploitation of animals. Well, that's not ethical. So it's not vegan either. And they're like, what? So you're going to turn back 10 grand? It's like, well, yeah. It's okay, The very next day, the particular firm we're referring to decided to introduce the idea of putting live bunnies into their store so that you could go and take your children and pick out your live bunny as a healthy alternative for an Easter dinner. Yeah, that's a new definition of ethical if I've ever heard, and I can tell you what, there ain't 10 grand, no way, we're not having 10 grand off that firm for nothing. No. And we knocked back another 7 firms. And you can see, anybody who's aware, if you want to, I'm not going to name them all, because we agreed we weren't going to name and shame, but there's people who were here a couple of years ago who are not here now. There's some very big firms with a lot of money. And I can guarantee, hand on heart, we've knocked back £30,000. Now, bear in mind that VegFest doesn't have any money. We've never had any money. In fact, we're talking finances. VegFest has 150 grand debt. And that's to me. That's what I put in over 13 years to keep the show running. I sold half my business 5 years ago to keep the show running. We lost 20 grand at Scotland. We made 20 grand at London. We lost 10 grand at Bristol. We lost 5 grand at Brighton last year. oh, we've made money this weekend, we're going to make money at, and what do we do with this money? It's like, well, look, apart from making sure everybody gets paid, which is fairly ethical, we don't really have that kind of, don't pay people thing. But then what we do is if we do have any excess, well, we're using it for vegan education. We're doing billboard campaigns, we're doing radio adverts. We've had a whole Justice for All radio campaign running on Brighton for the last 2 weeks on Juice radio station. We fly in some of the best speakers from around the world. We've got Will Tuttle here, we've got Casey Taft, we've got Christopher Sebastian McJetters. They've all come, all USA based, they've all come over. And none of us are doing this for money. I mean, look, I'll be honest, if I wanted to go and earn some money, I could name you a load of things I'll go and do for money. I'm really not interested. I'm in the business of helping people go vegan. And when I die, if there is such a thing as a judgment process, I hope to be judged on the amount of people I help go vegan, not the amount of money I left in my bank account for someone else to spend. So, look, anyone who runs a business knows how tough it is, but you've only got to run your family budget to know how tough it is, You get so much in, you get so much out, and if you're able to be left with a little bit for yourself, well, good luck to you. So all of this stuff, sell out and all this nonsense, I mean, if anybody wants my 150 grand debt, you're welcome to it. I'll have it. So, VegFest has knocked back a lot of money. I don't want to medal for it, but I do want to make it clear that it's important that we try as best we can to make sure that VegFest is vegan and vegan only. And then we've introduced in the last 3 months ago, we introduced a new set of criteria for VegFest, which we've never really had. And before it's like, well, look, as long as it's vegan on the day, that's all that matters. We don't care what else you do, as long as on the day it's vegan. And that's like, well, that was how we started. And part of that is for me, there's a moral baseline here, is that everybody is included. All people should be welcome to VegFest. You should not be excluded from VegFest on the grounds of your lifestyle or dietary choices. You should be included and then encouraged and helped to change. That's the idea. So when I mentioned in my other talk earlier about, for us, the moral baseline is the Happy Mondays rave on, it is. We're party people, and we want people to come to the party. And then we maybe can learn something, sure, But for us, the bottom line is it's about people. People are the people who are going to change this world. We all care about animals, but it's not the animals that's going to change the position we're in. It's the people. So it really matters that we communicate in a way that we know works. Casey Taft has written a book, which I haven't got with me, which is called Motivational, what's it called? Motivational Techniques for Vegan Advocacy. And it's a short book, it's 120 pages, and in it, he looks at how to deliver your message. And he takes out Facebook things like, you get somebody going, oh, I was thinking of going vegan, but I really like eating eggs or something. And then, you've seen them on Facebook. You go, oh, how dare you, you evil person, blah, blah, blah. And then you get somebody going, oh, it doesn't matter, you eat a few eggs. And then it's like, oh, well, I can see you're interested. You've obviously got compassion. What is it that stops you going vegan? And then, you develop a conversation. So you don't just judge them and discard them. And you don't just go, oh, that's fine. It's like you meet them somewhere. It's like, well, look, we disagree, or we think that there may be somebody you could choose better. Or, shall we talk about it? And it's just basic human communication. It really isn't rocket science. And I've got to be staggered. I mean, I only come in the AR thing, vegan thing I've been vegan since 1984, but it's only in 2003 that we started working with this. And therefore, I was 40. I was age 40. So I've obviously done a few things in my first 40 years. And I can tell you, I was staggered when I came into the vegan thing and I saw the way people treated each other. I was like, my goodness, Oh, proper pen and ink, some disgusting treatment of individuals. And we know where it comes from. It's because we care. Of course we care. We all care. But we can't allow our anger and our disgust and our frustration to just spill out in public time and time again, because it just pushes people away. And one of the saddest things, actually, I've seen about the abolitionist ideology is the approach is so hostile to people that good people discard the ideology without even looking at it. And that's a waste. The reason they discard it is because they don't like the approach. And if the approach was improved, more people would listen. And it's the same with vegan advocacy. If you're going to go out in the street and rant and rave at someone and tell them that they're a filthy animal abuser and blah, 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 I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem to work that well. Maybe somebody might say it works for him. But, I just think it's better to be creative and kind of, polite, respectful, tread carefully, bit of humility, bit of humbleness, perhaps not always be right, Yeah. And that's how we're going. So as a result of this, we've basically introduced a new criteria. So I'm just going to run through this criteria briefly as we've, What's it? Just let me know, what's on it? It's me. The two. Yeah, that's all right. I could go on a bit longer then, as long as I go, okay, right. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at the criteria. We introduced this criteria. Let me be clear, these are not hard and fast rules, all right? They're guidelines. When we introduced them, there was a bit of a kerfuffle. Why do we need a new set of vegan criteria? Because we want to keep it vegan, okay? And I think we are in danger of losing the beauty of the vegan philosophy, but reducing it to a plant-based diet is so much more than that. So I think we do need a new set of vegan criteria. I think we need to make sure that also that people watching us around the world have a really good, clean model to follow that's effective, that is effective, but it's also integral. What's the word I'm looking for? Integrity. It has integrity. So here we go. What have we got? Demand. Yeah. So there's demand for consistency, especially with what we promote. Based on this rationale. So really, we're saying that, look, we need to be clear about our vegan message. VegFest has been guilty of being a little bit, or in some cases quite a lot, unclear about that. And this is why we're tightening up. So, first of all, let's just look at the new criteria. Visitors. Everyone is welcome, regardless of their current dietary lifestyle status. We welcome people who are vegan, transitioning, curious, or indeed completely new. People who currently choose to use animal products will be welcome to attend and will be pleasantly surprised. Many people go vegan. If you want the figures, Brighton works out around about 1,000 people leaving or go vegan, about 2,000 people saying they'll be making changes to their diet or lifestyle. So that's the effectiveness currently. So, moving on. What about visitors wearing fur coat leather shoes? If we could move on, please, because that's a graphic image. Thank you. They're not going to be disallowed from entering, but we are asking people now not to wear animal product. And that's gone out loud and clear. We've had a few people get in touch going, oh, am I not welcome? Or have I got to take my shoes off? It's like, well, no, what we're saying is we are asking you. We're not demanding, but we are pointing out that it's probably inappropriate to come to a vegan event with a leather jacket or a fur coat or, a big leather bag. So we're kind of trying to make sure that people understand this without excluding them. Because after all, if you're coming to the show for a vegan pair of shoes, you might already be wearing leather shoes. So you're obviously coming to change. That's the idea. So we don't want to exclude people, but we do want people to understand when they're visiting VegFest that this is a vegan event, and that includes what you wear. Okay, next. All stalls. Oh, now we're looking at stalls. So that was first of all visitors. Now we're moving on to stalls. All the stall holders must have vegan products on the day only. All marketing must be 100% vegan. Just at this show, we did have somebody who was promoting vegan vegetarian and had a leaflet that said, oh, you can use eggs or something. We've asked them to remove it. It's very important that all of these firms just promote vegan on a day. Now, they're not all vegan. We do not accept bookings from businesses to promote the use of animals outside of VegFest unless they have a strong vegan policy, or they already have a wide range of vegan products, or they are moving towards an increased vegan range. So what you get, I mean, there's, for instance, a firm here that has developed, they have a supermarket, they have small amounts of meat and dairy in their supermarket, not a lot, and they have a young vegan work team who have developed a vegan range that is now their own brand range, and the idea behind it is to get it to a point where the bosses no longer feel the need to sell their animal product because they're selling vegan product instead. So we want to help these people. You know, we don't want to knock them back on the grounds that they weren't vegan enough. You know, they're trying. They want to push this through. So we need to help them. It's a grey area, I admit. All right? And it's difficult. It's challenging to make a judgment. But it's coming clearer. So it is a bit grey. There is a bit of looseness. But if they've got a strong vegan policy, we want to encourage them. Grow that. If they already have a wide range of vegan products, we want to get these out. We want people to have access to them. We want more shops to take them on. We want to see more availability of vegan options. And, you know, if they're moving towards it, we want to help them. We don't want to... So, yep. It's a grey area. Of course, we prefer 100% vegan companies. This may be the case in the future. We're not there yet. We're working on it. For now, we want to help genuinely encourage businesses genuinely shifting towards each application we look at on an individual basis. All right? We accept that there may be some inconsistencies here. We're open to questions from visitors concerned. I had one just this morning, actually. Lady was in touch about a stall. They've only vegan products, but they do have one product outside that is got bee stuff in it, honey or bee something. So, you know, and they were saying, well, they shouldn't be allowed. And we're going, well, they're here. They haven't got any of the product with the bee thing. It's a very small amount, and we're encouraging them not to have any of it. We look at it, but we do open and we will debate with people, and we do appreciate people's input. So that's our stall holders. When we come to stall holders and contractors, the actual people, rather than the stall, as it were, and the products and the marketing, we look at the actual people behind it, stood on a stall. We do not ask that all our stall holders as individuals or workers are vegan. Only that they are vegan friendly, respectful to vegans, are vegan on the day of the show. And this also applies to our contractors, venue staff, volunteers, and anyone working. Now, VegFest is made up of a huge amount of people. We cannot insist that everybody's vegan. You know, it just won't work. We can't do it. Maybe in 50 years or 5 years, 5 months we can. But right now, you know, the people who work in this venue are not vegan. Our security firm are not vegan. We need vegan people. We need these people to be in, you know, within line of the law. If we have a fire officer come round or a, you know, health and safety inspector, we can't insist they're vegan. You know, it doesn't work like that. So we have to make some compromise here. But essentially, because we don't want to reject individuals, we want to help individuals. And we've got so many people we know have come to VegFest pre-vegan, and they've been working on VegFest, and a few years or a few months or weeks later, they're vegan. You know, so it's an environment we try and encourage and nurture this. Okay. So that's basically talking about, you know, the visitors and then our stall holders and the products, contractors. So now we're coming on to sponsors and the people that we promote. Now again, it's a bit of a grey area, but we're only accepting sponsorship for 100% vegan products, so we're not promoting anything that isn't vegan. But we're talking about in terms of products and marketing, again, we're not talking about the individuals. Now, for instance, we had a sponsor last year at London who gave us a lot of money. They were brilliant. All their range is vegan, 100% vegan. The owner isn't vegan. Does that matter to us? No. We're not going to reject that. What we're going to do is accept it and encourage the owner to become vegan. That's the way we're dealing with it. So, but we have, as I said, genuinely knocked back a lot of sponsorship over the last 18 months because it's just not appropriate to promote firms that are making a living out of exploiting animals. Next, we're looking at sponsors. We continue. You know, we give our sponsors extensive marketing. This is the thing. We only wish to promote vegan products. At the same time, we're very grateful for the support we've received. We've had a lot of non-vegan businesses, you know, give us money over the years. We really have. But you know, we just don't want to promote anything that involves animal exploitation. So it's getting challenging. We've got, for instance, an independent whole food distributor whose range is approximately 95% vegan. They have some honey in their distribution list. They want to sponsor us. We've said yes. Why? Because they're nearly all vegan, will only be promoting their vegan products. They're an independent distributor that is a cooperative, so they're, you know, ethically very sound on their decision-making process. They are like an intersectional business in that respect, is that the workers of the co-op have the voice. It doesn't matter who you are. If you work for the firm, you have a voice. You have a decision-making position, and it's not a corporate that is run with some kind of hierarchical thing. We want to encourage that. We want to work with people who are like-minded. If it's not 100% vegan, can we make allowances? We're struggling with it, but we are making a little bit of an allowance. You'll see a new sponsor announced soon. You can make your own opinion. Basically, I'm saying we're doing our best, basically. We are doing our best. That's what we're doing, you know. We're doing our best. And we're quite open to people pointing out how we think we could do it better. Okay, moving on. Speakers. Now, this is a bit controversial. This is a bit that caused a bit of aggravation. We just really, from now on in, we're only accepting vegan people to do the speaking. And that's because this is a vegan event. It's about education. And it doesn't make sense for us to have people who are not vegan promoting, doing talks and stuff about things that aren't necessarily vegan. So whilst we don't disrespect these individuals on their own campaigns, in fact, the opposite, we wish them well, we don't see that, you know, the Veg Fest is a place to be educating people about anything other than going vegan. So that's why we know, we ask all our speakers, and we are clear about that. In fact, we don't just ask, we actually demand. You know, we insist that all our speakers are vegan. We're only accepting talks on vegan education. We just don't want to get into all the other stuff. We want to focus on creative vegan education. We feel there's plenty of shows that can do the other stuff. If you want to learn about conservation, there's plenty of shows you can go for that. If you know, there's lots of other shows, there's vibrant shows, a lot of other good vegan events too. It's just that we don't want to focus on those areas. We want to focus on vegan education. And this is a little bit speakers. We particularly wish to avoid talks about campaigns that could be seen to fuel xenophobia. Now, this is controversial. I know we've probably got supporters in this room here. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying we don't want to. The Yulin Dog Festival, this really came home because some of you know us. You'll know that my colleague Alan is Chinese, quite visibly so. And he was asked to write a blog last year to protest outside the Chinese embassy, to demonize the Chinese for their disgusting Yulin Dog Festival. You know, meanwhile, we've got Grillstock going on in Bristol, where we've got this pig and cow barbecue festival. You know, to me, they're both abhorrent. There's no difference between Grillstock in Bristol, the Yulin Dog Festival in China. They all need to stop. But, you know, demonizing the Chinese and boycotting Chinese goods and fueling xenophobic feelings against Chinese people actually isn't going to help the world go vegan. It's counterproductive. That's my opinion. I would rather see that we focus on vegan education. However, that's just me. If people want to support these campaigns, that is up to them. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're a bit problematical and that we choose not to. And, you know, if you can put yourself in my shoes, I've got a Chinese employee being asked to write a protest about a Chinese embassy. Imagine if we were in China now and they were asking us to write about a protest about Grillstock. You know, it's challenging. I just don't think it's the best way to go about it. And we've seen a lot of awful xenophobia feelings on Facebook with these campaigns, and we just don't want to be part of it, you know? And I want to make it really clear, I'm not disrespecting the activists here. I'm not questioning anybody's integrity or their desire to change, and I'm certainly not in any way suggesting that these people are wrong or that they're bad people. It's the opposite. I have a huge admiration and respect for anybody who bothers to get up and do something for animals, you know? And I really got a lot of respect for that. What I'm saying, though, is that we need to look at our campaigning and see if it's problematical. We need to do something about that. And I don't want to see, you know, people set against people over animals. You know, we need to unite and not cause divisions. So I'm open. If anybody would like to come talk to me after the speech, because we're nearly out of time, I'll be outside. You're very welcome to come and talk to me if you've got strong feelings or if you feel that perhaps, you know, we're wrong on that or that we should or that we're disrespecting anyone. That's certainly not the intention. This is what we said. We just don't want to fuel that. That's our personal choice. We're open to debate about that. Okay, moving on. And no. All right? It's no. We don't want this sort of, no. All right? No. We don't want misogynist campaigns, homophobic campaigns, ABC. No. There's no part of that in this. So, and, you know, we do. We even had a... We don't anymore. Whatever we've had, we don't anymore. We don't want to see it. We don't agree with it. We don't agree with that poster and stuff, you know? I'm not saying we don't disagree with it. We just don't agree. We don't want to be doing that ourselves because that's not right in our book. It's problematical. Again, I'm quite happy to talk to people outside. We're nearly out of time, which is why I'm slightly rushing through. Just going on to the next one. We don't want to be promoting this stuff, you know? Let the people who are promoting it, they can promote it. That's fine. I don't disrespect them or question their integrity. It's the opposite. A load of respect for them. I think they're doing a really valuable job. But if you're vegan, you should be promoting veganism. Full stop. That's why we're not having any of this stuff at our shows. Okay, next. We're encouraging creative vegan education. We do this with talks. We want to do it. We want this to be reflected. So that's why we've changed our criteria a bit, tightened up. Moving on. There's plenty of other shows out there, basically. Look, you know, if you don't like it, that's fair enough. You know, if you feel excluded, that's fair enough. I'm sure there are speakers who are not now able to speak at VegFest who will be able to speak at, say, the Viva shows. There's loads of vegan events all over the UK that will welcome speakers who are not vegan. So that's fine. There'll be people who are quite happy to talk about conservation campaigns or other campaigns. That's fine. We want to focus on vegan education. We cannot accept speakers at VegFest UK who regularly disrespect other activists in public. All right? Now, we're all guilty. I know. We're all guilty. The difference here is that there are those of us that recognise that this is not a good thing, and we try and put a cap on it. We try to put a lid on it. Trouble is with Twitter and Facebook, you know, you come back from the pub 1 a.m, bosh, 15 words, you wake up the next morning, it's like, oh my goodness. Oh dear, is that me? It's like, possibly. I'm not admitting to anything on this one. But we need to point this out. You know, we cannot have this consistent naming and shaming, abusing, hanging people out to dry who are good, honest activists. Sure, criticism, respectful critique, but not personal attacks, disrespectful comments, or rude and discourteous language towards other activists. Now, look, I'll be honest, you know, I'm a failed academic and I'm not very bright. But I shouldn't have, and anybody shouldn't have to be subjected to a load of abuse just because you're not very bright. You know, especially by people who are very bright. Well, that's great. Check your privilege. Next. Performers. Anybody see Mo Bias Loop yesterday? Whoa. We got some fantastic vegan performers. We're actively seeking more vegan performers. But to be honest, our headlines is at Bristol when we got like Marshall Jefferson on. Is he vegan? I don't know. Hopefully he will be after he leaves VegFest. When we're booking Maccabee, oh great, actually he is vegan, so is his band. Wonderful. You know, but if his bass guitarist wasn't vegan, we wouldn't exclude him. You know? So we're working towards it. And we are hosting the Effective Factor, seeking out the best activists. That's how we're going with it. Campaign groups, we're asking all campaign groups include vegan education. That's all we're saying. If you're a campaign group like Hunt Sabs, vegan education. They do this already, Hunt Sabs. You know, I believe 80% of Hunt Sabs pretty much are vegan. You know, there's a real strong vegan culture in Hunt Sabs. Hunt Sabs embrace, the committee embraces veganism. They see it's a very good thing. We want more and more people to be vegan. That's what we're asking, is that we promote the vegan ethos as part of our campaigning. So if you are out on the street campaigning for perhaps try and get fur banned or try and get a pig farm shut down or try and get a, you know, some kind of activism, please include vegan education. And from next year, we'll be seeing all these stalls here will be promoting veganism. That's the idea. But it's something we're asking, all right? And I just want to highlight that. It's a request, not a demand. It's a request. Right. In general, and then I'll shut up. In general, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep welcoming people on. And we're going to work towards a more and more clear vegan message. You know, our stallholders' criteria remain the same. We're working towards it. So, you know, and I think the important thing is to recognise that VegFest, like a lot of big organisations, you know, imagine you've got an big oil tanker and you're going up the English Channel and suddenly you want to do switch direction. It takes a long time to turn that round sometimes. But if you're in a little dinghy, you know, you can just whoosh, and you're around. So individuals can change a lot quicker than the big groups. So people have to respect that, you know, big groups, if they're showing the right direction, support them. If they're rejecting veganism, well, I suggest you might choose another group to support. Okay. That's it.